Omniscient Reader's Viewpoint by Sing Shong. Chapter 21. Shadowkeeper. Part 3. Hyung. This. Right after Lee Gil-young discovered the treasure box, I blocked his little mouth. Shoo, wait. The world of Ways of Survival was relentless. The constellations enjoyed the adversity of the characters and added obstacles in the scenarios just to fuck with humans. Things saying, "catch me," usually contained traps, and even system messages couldn't be trusted. The treasure trove doesn't just contain treasures. The constellation Abyssal Black Flame Dragon is disappointed. Abyssal Black Flame Dragon. He had wanted me to die for a while. Anyway, I waited. Shortly afterwards, shadows started to emerge around the treasure chest. Grr. It was the ground rats. They brought something through the tunnel, through it, and exchanged information. Warwick. Once a certain number of ground rats gathered, the number of lights illuminating the surroundings increased. It was black fire, flames made with black ether. It was said that this place was the core of Darkroot, which was why it had so much black ether to burn. At that time, someone's voice was heard. "It is all because of you, Senga SSI." There was no need to say who he was. It was a voice I would know at once. I gripped the shoulder of the surprised Lee Gil-young tightly. It wasn't time yet. Because of me, what do you mean by that? In the dim light, there were two people captured by the ground rats. They were tied up tightly by branches that came up from the ground. If Usanga hadn't taken the subway, the situation wouldn't be like this. Why does the subway matter now? How could she accept all this nonsense? Maybe Usanga was a saintly person. Or maybe the sponsor behind her was a saintly person. That, Usanga SSI, you ride a bicycle all the time. Han Myunggo's voice shook as he wrote gibberish. Usanga's tone was cold. Wait a minute. Were you the one who stole my bike? What is this person? I clearly told you that I would drive you in my car. You should know how to accept favors. Answer me. Did you steal my bike? All of a sudden, the situation made sense. This was it. It was why a person who drove a Mercedes-Benz S-Class took the subway line 3. Well, it wasn't strange. There were quite a few men who had their eyes on Usanga, not just at the company, but at Gumho Station as well. In fact, Usanga was a worthy person. Her atmosphere was warm and she knew how to flatter people. The constellation demon-like Judge of Fire hates the character Han Myunggo. Han Myunggo's face was so red that it could clearly be seen in the dim lighting. It looked dangerous. Yes, shit. I did it. So what? Why are you talking like it isn't a big deal? You took someone else's things, it is theft. Theft? Shit, don't talk bullshit. You should have just got on my car from the beginning. The constellation Prisoner of the Golden Headband hates this trivial argument. I didn't mean to do this, but there was no other way now. I quietly gripped the thorn. I didn't ask you just one thing. I continuously asked to take you home, but you kept fucking rejecting me. I threw the thorn as hard as I could. The thorn scratched the corner of Han Myunggo's mouth and continued into the darkness. Yuaak. What? The constellation Prisoner of the Golden Headband is pleased. 100 coins have been sponsored. Doc SSI. Usanga called out to me. But I wasn't looking at them. Kuo. Across the habitat of the ground rats, the darkness was split apart by the thorn. Then that damned guy came. There was no way it wouldn't be in Darkroot. Darkkeeper could appear. The sub-scenario has been updated. Sub-scenario, Kill the Guard has begun. Like slaves surrendering to a king, the terrified ground rats fell to the ground. A dark figure appeared in the dim light. A tentacled monster reminiscent of a god of death. Li Giliang's complexion deteriorated sharply. Oof, Hyung, it is okay. Eventually, Li Giliang fell to the ground and started retching. It wasn't strange. A lot of pressure was felt just looking at it from afar. The cockroaches crawling around Long had their stomachs exploded. Li Giliang, who was connected to the cockroaches, would have suffered considerable mental damage. Giliang. How many more times can you use diverse communication? I think I can do it 1 or 2 more times. I understand. Then rest here for a while. I left Giliang leaning against the side and approached Yu Senga and Han Myungo. The panicked Han Myungo was struggling. Oh Huck. What is this? I took the Swiss knife and cut the branches binding the two of them. I only moved the knife a few times. Then the part of the branch that it touched abruptly corroded and the blade melted away. Yes, this was the power of a demonic species. Stay back, I said while raising a weapon made of the spine of a ground rat. The grade 7 demon-type species, Dark Keeper. Among the many monsters that appeared since the start of the destruction, the demon species were toxic. In fact, the treasures of the ground rats were close to tributes to the demon. Even if it was the same grade, the demon species were different from other monster species. The Dark Keeper has received the favor of the Demon King. It follows. Commune. Derivative Yitter. The demon species had their own language, worshipped different demon kings, and inherited some of the power of the Demon King through Dark Root. The Dark Keeper has emitted fear. The exclusive skill Fourth Wall has neutralized most of the fear effect. Therefore, killing one demon meant becoming the adversary of their Demon King. Yitter. I didn't know what it was saying, but the situation didn't look good. I didn't want to fight if possible. And Mother? Yu Senga. She still hadn't left? I told you to stay back. That monster just said Mother. I thought for a moment about what this meant. No, wait a minute. I think. K-Karad, Yemiren? This is the pronunciation? Akatu? For a moment, I thought I was mistaken. But I didn't hear wrong. Kalatu. Surprisingly, the Dark Keeper nodded at the end. The character, Yu Senga, has activated the Interpreter LV3 skill. Oh my god, she wasn't only good at Spanish. Let's see what would happen. What is he saying? It keeps saying, become mother. Become mother? The Dark Keeper cried out again and pointed to Yu Senga. Kalatu. Yu Senga had a tearful face. Mother? I'm not married yet. The Dark Keeper pointed at Han Myungo this time. Kalatu. Han Myungo turned pale as he wiped his mouth. Why am I the mother? Father. The Dark Keeper's tentacles rose. Pushu. Oof. One of the tentacles entered his mouth and Han Myungo turned black. There was the sound of something moving down Han Myungo's throat. That's right. This was what it meant to become the mother. I belatedly recalled that the demon species conceived their young in the body of other species. Yu Senga SSI, you don't plan to have a child yet, right? Of course. Yu Senga immediately understood the words and stepped back quickly. I swung the ground rat spear and tore at the tentacles attached to Han Myungo. The Dark Keeper roared angrily. Kalichuo. Fushu. Tiang. The tentacles of the demon species were gradually breaking the ground rat spear. Even the stone hog thorn, which broke through the stomach of an ichthyosaur, would have been destroyed the moment it was stuck in a demon's body. Before I knew it, Han Myungo was far away while Yu Senga looked at me. Is there a chance? Her eyes seemed to be asking me. To tell the truth, I didn't have a chance. Pushu. Pushu. Tiang. After a few strikes, the ground rat spear was almost destroyed. The hand holding the spear was in pain. The monster guarding the treasure chest couldn't be caught, just like the ichthyosaur of Dongo Bridge. That's why the original plan wasn't to deal with this monster, but to obtain the treasure chest after it disappeared. But as always, plans existed for things to go wrong. Dakibi. Are you watching? You knew? The Dakibi showed up in the darkness. I didn't know his name, but he seemed to be a cousin of Baihyung. There should be some mail for me by now. I want you to hand it over quickly. Hyatt. It isn't my responsibility. It is Baihyung's thing. Right now, you are taking Baihyung's place. Don't you see the constellations complaining? The constellation Prisoner of the Golden Headband wants to scold the Dakibi Biryu. The constellation Demon-like Judge of Fire threatens the Dakibi Biryu. The Dakibi Biryu gulped. Oh, okay. Instead, it is just this once. I think it will be interesting. The Dakibi muttered something and the summoning began. The item has arrived from the exchange. The item Broken Faith has been acquired. The brokerage fee was exempted due to the effect of the contract. Broken Faith. The item bartered for the ichthyosaur core, which was registered on the Dakibi Bag Exchange, had finally arrived. Kick. The Dark Keeper saw the item coming out of thin air and laughed. No wonder it was laughing. All I received was a D-grade item. It was a knife, broken in half. The item is too old to use. The durability will be poor and it will be difficult to achieve any performance. Even the Dakibi who gave him the item was giggling. How can you fight with that old thing? And it can't be used if you don't have a special skill. I knew that much. I wouldn't have bought it if I didn't know. Sigh. I sucked in a breath and concentrated my mind. King. The hilt started trembling greatly. Biryu shouted with shock. How? It was natural to be surprised. It was because this was a skill I bought from his friend for a huge 10,000 coins. Blue ether started to settle slowly on the surface of the broken blade. White pure star energy. After killing the ichthyosaur, I bought this skill from Baihyung. There were a few flaws compared to other superior energy techniques, but they weren't something that could be obtained for the time being. Broken Faith has responded to your star energy. Blade of Faith is activated. Shortly afterwards, a brilliant white virtual blade sprang up from the edge of the broken blade. Broken Faith. Its real performance was revealed when star energy was injected into it. Pushuk. The number of tentacles increased by dozens and covered my field of view. I wouldn't be safe from these attacks with my current stamina level. It was scary. But now there was a chance. King. It was because the Blade of Faith was the best quality weapon when it came to demon species. Pachichuchakachit. The tentacles touched by the blade were oxidized and cut off. The Dark Keeper let out a terrible scream as its tentacles were destroyed. I felt magic power draining out, but I wasn't in a hurry. Sukakak. I calmly moved the blade. I missed the tentacles many times because he didn't have the fighting senses skill and I didn't have the swordsmanship training skill, so the way I wielded the blade was terrible. It was natural. I was a reader, not a swordsman. And a reader fought in the manner of a reader. The attribute effect has improved your memories of the pages already read. The pages of Ways of Destruction flashed in my head. The Dark Keeper's attack pattern is simple. Unconditionally, the tentacle on the upper right will first. After the attack, a single tentacle at the bottom. Its tentacles regenerate, but it will take a few minutes. I read diligently and used what I had read. Qua. The Dark Keeper shrieked as its tentacles were cut. On the other side of my field of view was Li Gilyung. The young boy looked at me with odd eyes. Unfortunately, unlike his wishes, I wasn't the main character in this world. But I was confident of at least one thing. Car. Mean. Derivative. The Dark Keeper muttered as it barely managed to pull itself together from its shock. I didn't ask, but Yusanga muttered from behind me in a quivering voice. How do you know all my weaknesses? This was what it meant. I gave an answer in a light manner. I usually read a lot of books. I knew more about this world than anyone else. Chapter 22. Shadowkeeper. Part 4. Maybe we would have fought for a long time. The exclusive skill bookmark can now be activated. The number 2 bookmark has been activated. The level of the bookmark skill is low, shortening the activation time. Activation time, 1 minute. Well, I had this. Otherwise, my bones might be torn off my bones, or my blood might clot. Your understanding of the character is low, so only a part of the character's skill is activated. Weapons training LV.1 has been activated. But it didn't. To be exact, I couldn't afford it. I used all the powers I had. I squeezed out all my strength and ran through the tentacles. Sukak. The landscape around me flashed by. The only thing left was the afterimage of a sharp white light and the sense of cutting something. Your understanding of the character Li Hyunsung has increased. The number 2 bookmark has been disabled. I felt like I had lost strength. I had poured everything out in one blow. Then after a while, I heard a trembling voice in the air. See constellations. Did you all see it? I didn't see wrong. It was the appearance of Dakibi Biryu, who had forgotten his duties. In fact, it wasn't strange to be surprised. A few constellations are doubting their eyes. The constellation Abyssal Black Flame Dragon is flaring fiercely. It was a powerful grade 7 demon lying down with damaged tentacles in front of me. The constellation Prisoner of the Golden Headband pulls his hair as if he is pleased. 500 coins have been sponsored. The severed tentacles lay on the ground and the surrounding ground rats had long been killed or fled in the aftermath of the fight. Only the Dark Keeper lay breathing roughly on the ground, its lips twitching. He. Originally, the grade 7 demon was an enemy that I couldn't cope with. Thus, I was prepared. I wasn't as strong as Yu Zhonghyuk, and I didn't have a good sponsor like Li Hyunsung. The obsessive-compulsive constellations praise your readiness. 200 coins have been sponsored. It was just that the information I had was more advantageous than others. But sometimes, information was more powerful than anything in the world. Keying. The very result of that information was the white light sword now in my hand. An ether blade in the beginning scenarios. See constellations. Is this a true story? Fortunately, I didn't have to explain it as the Dakibi was in full swing. Ether blade. It was the flagship technique of the incarnations supported by the highest level sponsor. The technique was often called Energy Blade in Muram novels. To be exact, it isn't a real ether blade. The real one is much stronger than this. That's right. Strictly speaking, it is broken faith that has absorbed the white pure star energy and made the blade. Looking at the Dakibi, he wasn't a complete idiot. Amazing. There is this guy in that brat Baihyung's channel. As if waiting for this, the blade of faith turned off. Broken faith's durability has run out. This item is no longer available. It was a pity, but it did its part. Give me the compensation for finishing the sub-scenario. That's right. Wait. Biryu hurriedly entered something in the air and a message soon popped up. You have met the conditions to clear the sub-scenario. You have earned 500 coins. A handful of constellations admire your scenario. The reward was smaller than I thought. It was natural. It was because I haven't killed the Dark Keeper. By the way, are you not going to kill that guy? Virya looked at me with expectant eyes. I let out an exhausted breath and glanced at the Dark Keeper on the ground. Then I kindly said, I have a non-killing ideology. And non-killing. I'm not someone who kills easily. The constellation demon-like Judge of Fire admires it. 100 coins have been sponsored. Of course, it was a lie. The constellation secretive plotter is smiling slyly at you. 100 coins have been sponsored. The bewildered Biryu stammered. But won't the reward be great if you kill this guy? You will be the first to kill a grade 7 demon and I will give you 7,000 coins. Do you know how big 7,000 coins is? I won't kill it. I need to open the compensation box, so please step aside. I removed the irritating Biryu from in front of me. The Dark Keeper wasn't the real reason I came here. So. Puke. The grade 7 demon, Dark Keeper, was killed. What? The Dakibi who looked like it was so funny he would die, and the Dark Keeper who died with a knife in his chest. Then. Haha, haha ha. And now I can be strong. Kim Dokja, you son of a bitch. You didn't know this. Han Myungo was the one holding the knife. I had a rough idea of what happened. Then explosive messages were heard in my ears. A grade 7 demon has been hunted for the first time. An impossible feat has been accomplished. You have earned 8,000 coins. Contribution, Kim Dokja, Han Myungo. Perhaps these messages were also shared with Han Myungo. I only received a few coins because I didn't deal the finishing blow, but I could see Han Myungo dying with happiness at the messages. Non-killing ideology? Stupid guy. What is killing in this burning world? There can't be a person like you. You know. Then Han Myungo stopped. Now he knew what he had done. The grade 7 demon Dark Keeper has been killed and the demon king Asmodeus has noticed the murderer's presence. The demon king Asmodeus will chase the one who dealt the finishing blow until they are dead. The demon king Asmodeus has put a terrible curse on the person who dealt the final blow. Final blow, Han Myungo. What? What is this message? Han Myungo cried out fearfully. The constellation secretive plotter admires your wickedness. Ah, didn't I tell you? I intentionally didn't kill it. The constellation secretive plotter has recommended your scenario to Starstream. Han Myungo stared into the air like he had lost his soul. The curse of the demon king Asmodeus was the most terrible thing for a killer. I didn't know what it was, but it was surely terrible. I looked back and saw Li Gilyung and Yu Senga looking this way with bemused expressions. I smiled as if nothing had happened. We'll open the rewards together. After a while, we searched through the treasures and pulled out one each. I got this. I have this. Yu Senga and Li Gilyung found a small bracelet and old shield respectively. Magic Power Recovery Bracelet, Old Iron Shield. They were both D-grade items, but it was better than nothing. The Magic Power Recovery Bracelet was a useful item for everyone, and the Old Iron Shield would be good for Li Hyunsung. It was difficult to ignore the iron in the name. This iron was much harder than Earth's iron. Yu Senga spoke with slight disappointment. It is less than I thought. Less. Her words weren't wrong. It was too shameful to call this a treasure trove. Yu Jonghyuk. The guy who left yesterday had probably gone through this place. He knew he would be tired fighting the demon, so he took a chance and stole the treasure. In the end, we were robbing a place that was already robbed. It is okay, because the main thing is still left. I looked at a black box in the center of the warehouse. We didn't waste any more time and opened the box. The thing in the box was a stove. It was small enough to fit into a pocket, and it was shameful to call it a stove. Magic power stove. As expected, it was still here. This item was in fact the key item in this sub-scenario. Magic power stove can only be used once per person. Obviously, Yu Jong-hyuk had taken one, so there were 2 magic power stoves in total. What is that thing? Well, I think I know a bit about its purpose. I purposely trembled, activated the stove with magic power, and raised a dead ground rat's leg. It was funny since it didn't fit the size of a plate of food, but in 5 seconds, a remarkable change happened to the leg of the ground rat. Wow! A delicious smell. There was a sweet smell, and the leg of the ground rat changed to a golden color. Meat! Lee Gil-young cried out excitedly. Yu Senga asked urgently. See, can we eat this? I'll try it first. I grabbed the greasy hind leg and dug into the flesh. The juices ran from the flesh. I forgot to chew and closed my eyes. Tasting it was different from reading it in the book. A few constellations are drooling. The constellations have sponsored you 100 coins. The constellation Abyssal Black Flame Dragon has swallowed his saliva. The constellation Prisoner of the Golden Headband is biting his nails. The messages continuously popped up. Indeed, eating broadcasts were the best. Everyone was united in front of food. Eat it. I think it is okay. The 2 people rushed towards the meat as soon as I spoke. They hadn't had a proper meal for 3 days, so they would be quite hungry. Han Myung-go recovered and came over hesitantly. Ddokjessi. I went crazy for a second. Eat. Don't worry about the other thing. Thank you. You will become a ghost after eating. What? Han Myung-go's complexion turned as white as death. I said it like a joke, but Han Myung-go really would die. Asmodeus' pursuit was hard for even Yu Jong-hyuk to overcome. We each took 1 leg and started to eat. We were eating meat together because we were hungry after everything that started. Humans couldn't help it. Everyone ate the meal in silence. Was it due to the light spurting gently from the magic power stove? I was feeling a bit sentimental. Killing something and eating it in order to live. This was the life of a human. It had been like this so far, but I wondered why it felt so fresh. Suddenly, I looked up and met Yu Senga's eyes. Yu Senga came to her senses and suddenly cried out. I'm pathetic. Huh? Ddokjessi worked so hard and I am just eating like a pig. I was no help at all, no, Yu Senga SSI. That. But how does Ddokjessi know all this? You know how to cook a beast and, that. Indeed. It must be because you read fantasy novels, right? Really, I didn't know the world was going to be like this. My silly self was just memorizing Spanish. I felt somewhat strange when I heard Yu Senga say this. I opened my mouth to comfort her. It is because Yu Senga SSI studied foreign languages that you learned the language of the demon species. Of course, it wasn't very helpful. I see. Thank you, Ddokjessi. I smiled at Yu Senga and got up from where I was sitting. The party was immersed in eating again. I took a break and headed for the back of the party. In fact, the magic power stove was important, but my real purpose was a separate item. I looked closely at the black box that contained the magic power stove. It was this. There was no doubt about it. Yu Jong-hyuk, who took the magic power stove, probably didn't know about it. The real treasure of the warehouse was this black box. In the original story, Yu Jong-hyuk only knew about this after the 6th round of regression. Who was the first to discover this? Was it Heavenly Maid Hori? Well, it was hard to remember. It wasn't accurate, but it was probably something like this. Over there. There are strange boxes in the early areas. If you put something in there, at this time, I met Yusenga's eyes. What is the box for? Huh? Ah, this. Yusenga said as she looked at the box. There were unknown characters written on the box. Could she read them? Random, item box? Damn. This was why foreign language proficiency was important. So that is what it means. I was a bit embarrassed. Yusenga cried out. Quickly use it, dodge gas SI. Is it okay? Nod nod. Li Gilyung nodded vigorously. You don't need to worry about us. All the items obtained here are yours. That is obvious. Yes, I was caught, so let's do it quickly. Then I will use it well. A few constellations are nodding at your decision. I took the nucleus of the grade 7 demon from my pocket. I had cut it from the dead body of the Dark Keeper. In addition, I took out Broken Faith, which had run out of durability. According to the original plot, the use of this box was simple. Who knew? There would be a limited edition coin item. I placed the demon core and Broken Faith into the box. Huh, you can't believe me words? Is it real? Put sub-items in there and close the box. In fact, I didn't know what would happen when I put in these 2 items. But I was certain that something huge would come out. A top item will unconditionally come out. A moment later, a dazzling light burst out from the closed box.